Ghostly tales, yet mirrors of human life. Hey everyone! Welcome to Encountering Chinese. Ghostly Tales from Zhai. Today, I'm going to tell you a story called by Yuyu. Wu Yun, also known by the courtesy name Qing'an, gained early renown for his extensive knowledge. An imperial historiographer named Gu was highly impressed upon reading Wu Yun's writings. Admiring Wu Yun's literary talent, Gu sought the help of someone acquainted with Wu Yun to observe his speech and demeanor. Gu remarked, "How could someone as talented as Wu Yun continue to live in poverty?" At the same time, Gu conveyed a message to Wu Yun through his friend, stating, "If Wu Yun can strive for success, pass the imperial examinations, I will give my daughter's hand in marriage to him." Gu had a daughter renowned for her beauty, a fact known to many. Upon hearing his friend's message, Wu Yun was naturally delighted and felt confident in himself. However, not long after, he failed in the autumn examinations. Undeterred, Wu Yun instructed his friend to convey a message to Gu, saying, "Prosperity and nobility are predetermined by fate, it's just a matter of whether it happens early or late. Please ask Gu to wait for me for 3 years. If I still haven't succeeded by then, he can marry his daughter to someone else." With renewed determination, Wu Yun redoubled his efforts in his studies. One night, under the bright moonlight, a scholar came to visit Wu Yun. This scholar had fair complexion, short beard, slender waist, and long fingernails. When Wu Yun asked where he came from, he replied, "My surname is Bai, and my given name is Yuyu." After a brief conversation, Wu Yun found him to be open-minded and cheerful, developing a fondness for him. Wu Yun invited him to stay overnight. The next morning, as Bai Yuyu prepared to leave, Wu Yun requested him to visit regularly. Grateful for the hospitality, Bai Yuyu decided to move in with Wu Yun. They agreed on a date for Bai Yuyu to make the transition. On the appointed day, a servant brought Bai Yuyu's cooking utensils. Shortly after, Bai Yuyu arrived riding a magnificent dragon-like horse. Wu Yun arranged another room for him, and Bai Yuyu had his servant take care of the horse. From that day forward, they spent much time together, and their relationship became very close. Wu Yun noticed that the books Bai Yuyu read were not the typical scholarly works or the 8-legged essays required for the imperial examinations. Intrigued, Wu Yun asked about his choice of literature. Bai Yuyu laughed and said, "Everyone has their own aspirations. I am not one who seeks to obtain official positions and fame." In the evenings, Bai Yuyu often invited Wu Yun to drink, occasionally presenting him with a scroll of books. As Wu Yun perused these books, he discovered they contained techniques related to qi cultivation, challenging to comprehend. Considering them less important, Wu Yun set them aside without delving further. After a few days, Bai Yuyu said to Wu Yun, "The books I gave you earlier contain methods for cultivating inner elixirs and seeking immortality. These techniques are essential for achieving enlightenment and becoming an immortal." Wu Yun smiled and replied, What I urgently desire now is not these. Besides, those who seek immortality must sever emotional ties and eliminate all desires, which is something I find challenging to do. Bai Yuyu asked. Why is that? Wu Yun explained that he needed to consider continuing his family line. Bai Yuyu then inquired. Why have you delayed getting married for so long? Wu Yun chuckled and said. Just as mentioned in Demencius, I've got a condition, and that's a penchant for beautiful women. Bai Yuyu also laughed and remarked. In Demencius, it also says, the king requests that you not be fond of trivial beauty, advising people not to be enamored with ordinary women. So, what kind of woman do you fancy? Wu Yun then recounted the entire story of how the daughter of the Gu family was promised to him by her father. After hearing this, Bai Yuyu doubted whether the girl from the Gu family was truly as beautiful as rumored. Wu Yun responded. That young lady is universally recognized for her beauty, not just my subjective judgment. Bai Yuyu smiled faintly and didn't press the matter further. The next day, Bai Yuyu suddenly packed his belongings to bid farewell. Wu Yun, filled with sorrow, expressed reluctant parting words, talking endlessly, and there was still much left unsaid. Bai Yuyu had his servant carry the luggage ahead, and he lingered with Wu Yun, finding it hard to part. Suddenly, they noticed a green cicada landing on the desk. Bai Yuyu took his leave, saying, My carriage is ready, let's part ways here. If you miss me, you can tidy up the bed where I slept and rest there. Wu Yun wanted to ask more questions, but in an instant, Bai Yuyu had become as small as a finger. With a swift leap onto the back of the green cicada, accompanied by chirping sounds, Bai Yuyu disappeared into the blue sky and white clouds. Only then did Wu Yun realize that Bai Yuyu was no ordinary person. He stood there in astonishment, feeling a sense of loss. After a few days, the sky suddenly started drizzling rain. Wu Yun's longing for Bai Yuyu became even more urgent. He went to the bed where Bai Yuyu had slept and found many rat droppings. Sighing, he began cleaning and then laid down on the bed after arranging the bedding. After a while, to Wu Yun's surprise, Bai Yuyu's servant came to invite him. Joyfully, he followed the servant. As Wu Yun walked, he saw a flock of multicolored birds called Tunghua Feng flying towards him. The servant caught one and said to Wu Yun, It's getting dark, and the road is not safe. We can ride this little bird for transportation. Concerned that the bird might be too small to carry him, Wu Yun hesitated. However, the servant reassured him. Just give it a try. Wu Yun followed his advice, tried riding the bird, and to his amazement, it was spacious and more than sufficient. The servant also hopped on the bird's tail. With a sudden sound, the Tunghua Feng bird spread its wings and soared into the sky. Not long after, a red lacquered gate appeared before the two. The servant dismounted from the bird first and assisted Wu Yun. Wu Yun asked, Where is this? The servant replied, This is Heavenly Gate. They noticed a giant tiger crouching beside Heavenly Gate. Wu Yun was terrified, but the servant shielded him from the tiger. Wu Yun observed that every aspect of this place was entirely different from the mortal realm. The servant led Wu Yun to a palace named Guanghan Palace. The palace's steps were carved from crystal, and walking on them felt like walking on a mirror. Beside the palace, there were 2 towering cassia trees with crowns reaching the clouds and trunks so thick that many people would need to join hands to embrace them. The fragrance of flowers wafted through the air continuously. The doors and windows of the pavilions and towers in the palace were all vermilion. Occasionally, beautiful women came and went, each one exceptionally charming and ethereal, unparalleled in the world. The servant said, "The beauties in the Queen Mother's palace are even more beautiful than those here." The servant, fearing that his master had waited too long, dared not linger and promptly guided Wu Yun to leave in a hurry. Before long, Wu Yun saw Bai Yuyu waiting at the door, and the 2 walked hand in hand through the grand entrance. Wu Yun noticed that under the eaves, there was clear flowing water, fine white sand, and a small stream meandering, with jade stone steps, carved railings, making him suspect that this was the Moon Palace. They had just taken their seats when young maidens approached gracefully, offering fragrant tea. Soon after, Bai Yuyu had dishes and wine brought to the table. 4 beautiful women came forward to pay their respects, adorned with tinkling ornaments, serving and attending to the 2 guests. Wu Yun had just felt a bit itchy on his back when one of the beautiful women, with long fingernails, reached into his clothes to scratch him. Wu Yun couldn't help but feel overwhelmed, losing control. He soon began to feel intoxicated, struggling to maintain composure. Wu Yun laughed and stared at the beautiful women, cracking jokes with them, but they always smiled and evaded him. Bai Yuyu ordered the maidens to sing and entertain. A beautiful woman in crimson thin gauze, holding a wine glass, encouraged the guests and displayed her melodious singing voice. The other beautiful women played the sheng and guan, accompanying her with beautiful music. It was truly delightful. After the song ended, a beauty dressed in emerald green offered drinks to the guests while singing a charming melody. Meanwhile, a woman in purple attire and another in pale white chiffon stood on the side, giggling and playfully refusing to step forward to offer drinks. Bai Yuyu had them both offer wine and sing songs. The woman in purple poured wine for the guests. When Wu Yun reached for the cup, he secretly scratched her jade wrist. The woman smiled, accidentally dropping the cup on the ground. Bai Yuyu scolded her publicly, and the woman in purple, blushing, picked up the cup. She then whispered to Wu Yun, "Your hands are as cold as a ghost's, but you insist on grabbing my arm." Bai Yuyu laughed and ordered her to sing and dance. After the dance, the woman in light white chiffon quickly filled a large cup of wine for Wu Yun. Although he repeatedly declined, when he saw the shy expression of the woman in white, he reluctantly drank it all. Wu Yun, in a drunken haze, closely observed the 4 beautiful women. They were all elegant and charming, each one extraordinarily rare in the mortal world. Suddenly, he said to Bai Yuyu, "Finding one beautiful woman in the mortal world is extremely difficult, yet here, there is a gathering of beauties. Can I truly experience the intoxicating feeling? Bai Yuyu laughed and said, You already have a beloved in your heart. Can you still find these people appealing? Wu Yun said, Only today did I realize the limited extent of my knowledge. Bai Yuyu then brought all the beautiful women to Wu Yun and let him choose. Wu Yun looked left and right, his eyes dazzled. Bai Yuyu thought Wu Yun had a connection with the woman in purple, so he arranged for her to set up the beddings and serve the guest. The two quickly got into bed, indulging in the pleasures of the bed, enjoying the lingering passion. Wu Yun asked the beauty for a keepsake, and the woman in purple took off her gold bracelet from her wrist and gave it to him. At that moment, Wu Yun suddenly saw Bai Yuyu's servant entering. The servant said, The immortal realm and the mortal realm are vastly different. Please leave immediately. Upon hearing this, the woman in purple hastily dressed and left in a hurry. Wu Yun asked the servant about Bai Yuyu's whereabouts, and the servant replied, He rose early to attend the morning court and instructed me to see off the guest before leaving. Feeling disappointed, Wu Yun followed the servant back the way he came. As Wu Yun approached the heavenly gate, he looked back to find the servant had mysteriously disappeared. The tiger next to the heavenly gate roared and leaped. Panicking, Wu Yun fled, only to find himself falling into an abyss with no end in sight. In his desperate moment, he suddenly woke up, realizing it was just a dream. Opening his eyes, he saw the morning sun painting the sky red. As he was about to get up and put on his clothes, he noticed something gently sliding onto his bedding. Picking it up, he found it to be the golden bracelet the woman in purple had given him in the dream. Wu Yun couldn't help but feel even more perplexed. From that day on, his pursuit of fame and his enthusiasm for the daughter of the Gu family gradually cooled. He often thought about leaving home to seek immortality, but worried about leaving the family without an heir. More than 10 months later, one day, Wu Yun was taking a nap when he suddenly dreamt that the woman in purple from the heavens walked in carrying a baby in her arms. She said to Wu Yun, This child is your flesh and blood. I cannot raise him in the heavens, so I brought him to you. She then placed the infant on Wu Yun's bed, covered him with a piece of clothing, and hastily prepared to leave. Wu Yun insisted on keeping her, but the woman in purple said, Our last encounter was a union, and this time is a farewell forever. Our earthly marriage has come to an end. If you still harbor feelings for me, perhaps we will meet again in the future. Wu Yun woke up and saw a baby sleeping beside him in the clothes. Hurriedly, he picked up the infant and went to see his mother. Delighted, his mother hired a wet nurse to care for him and named him Wu Mengxian. Later, Wu Yun sent someone to deliver a message to imperial historiographer Gu, expressing his intention to become a monk and retire from worldly affairs. He requested Gu to find another suitable husband for his daughter. Gu disagreed with this decision, but Wu Yun insisted on canceling the engagement. Unable to change his mind, Gu conveyed Wu Yun's decision to his daughter. However, she replied, People near and far already know that you have promised me to Wu Yun for a lifetime. If he leaves, I would rather serve his parents alone. I will not marry anyone else. Ge communicated his daughter's words to Wu Yun, who explained, "The reason I am declining the marriage is that I no longer wish to pursue fame and fortune, and I have lost interest in marital affairs. I have not immediately entered seclusion in the mountains only because my elderly mother is still alive." So, Ge went again to discuss with his daughter. The daughter said, "Although Wu Yun's family is poor, I am willing to endure hardship with him. If Wu Yun decides to leave home, I would rather serve his parents alone. I will not marry anyone else." After several rounds of communication, no consensus was reached. Therefore, Ge chose an auspicious day, prepared the wedding convoy and dowry, and personally escorted his daughter to Wu Yun's home to complete their marriage. Touched by the virtuous qualities of Ms. Ge, Wu Yun loved and respected her deeply. She served Wu Yun's mother with great filial piety, surpassing many women from less humble backgrounds. 2 years later, Wu Yun's mother passed away. Ms. Ge pawned her dowry to purchase a coffin, demonstrating impeccable etiquette in every aspect. Wu Yun, appreciative of his excellent wife, said to her, "With a wife like you, what more could I ask for? I worry that someday, when one attains enlightenment, the entire family can ascend to become immortals. Therefore, I must leave home for a distant journey, leaving everything in the family to you." Ms. Ge calmly listened to his words without any attempt to dissuade him. Wu Yun then departed from home. After Wu Yun's departure, Ms. Ge managed the household affairs and livelihood with great efficiency. Internally, she nurtured an educated orphan child. The entire household was well organized and orderly. Wu Mengxian, gradually growing up, displayed exceptional intelligence and was regarded as a prodigy. At the age of 14, he passed the provincial examination, and at 15, he succeeded in the imperial examination, entering the Hanlin Academy. Whenever the imperial court granted titles to his mother, he, unaware of his biological mother's name, inadvertently resulted in the emperor bestowing honors solely upon Ms. Ge. One day, on the occasion of the ancestral worship day, Wu Mengxian deeply missed his father and inquired about his whereabouts. His mother, Ms. Ge, candidly explained his father's actual situation, mentioning that he had become a monk and embarked on spiritual practice for more than 10 years. She expressed doubts about the feasibility of finding him. Later, Wu Mengxian, acting on the emperor's decree, traveled to Mount Heng in Hunan for a sacrificial ceremony. On the way, he encountered bandits, facing imminent danger. Suddenly, a Taoist appeared wielding a sword, swiftly defeating the bandits and rescuing Wu Mengxian. Grateful for the Taoist's assistance, Wu Mengxian offered gold and silver as thanks, but the Taoist declined and handed him a letter. The Taoist said, "I have an old friend from the same hometown as you. Please deliver this letter to him on my behalf." When asked for the friend's name, the Taoist replied, "Wang Lin." Although Wu Mengxian couldn't recall anyone in the village with that name, the Taoist mentioned that Wang Lin was an inconspicuous individual in the countryside, unlikely to be known by someone like Wu Mengxian, being a high-ranking official. Before departing, the Taoist also presented a finely crafted gold bracelet, explaining it was a woman's accessory found in the wild, and offered it to Wu Mengxian. Wu Mengxian took a closer look at the exquisitely carved golden bracelet and tucked it into his bosom, intending to gift it to his wife. When his wife saw the bracelet, she was particularly fond of it and asked a skilled jeweler to craft another one, but the craftsmanship ultimately couldn't match the intricacy of the original. Returning to the village and inquiring around, Wu Mengxian couldn't find anyone named Wang Lin. In desperation, he secretly opened the letter and found it written: 3 years of marital bliss, now separated by fate. Thanks to your virtues, you have taken care of burying my mother and raising our child. I have no way to repay your kindness. I now present to you a pill. Cut it open and consume it to become an immortal. The letter concluded with, "Please deliver it to Lady Lin's dressing table." Confused, Wu Mengxian took the letter to inquire of his mother, Ms. Gu. When his mother saw the letter, she burst into tears, choking with sobs. She explained, "This is a letter from your father. Lin is my nickname." It dawned on Wu Mengxian that Wang Lin was a pseudonym. Regret filled his heart as he realized he had missed the chance to reunite with his father. He then showed the golden bracelet to his mother, who remarked, "This should be a keepsake from your birth mother. Your father showed it to me when he was still alive." Looking at the pill mentioned in the letter, about the size of a soybean, Wu Mengxian joyfully exclaimed, "Since my father is an immortal, consuming this pill will surely grant you eternal life." However, his mother, Ms. Gu, didn't immediately take the pill but carefully preserved it. One day, imperial historiographer Gut came to visit his grandson Wu Mengxian. Ms. Gu read Wu Yun's letter to him and presented the longevity pill, hoping that he could enjoy a long life. Gu accepted the pill, divided it in half, and shared it with his daughter. As soon as they swallowed the pill, both father and daughter immediately felt invigorated. Gu, in his 70s and previously showing signs of aging, suddenly sensed a renewed vitality coursing through his bones and flesh after taking the elixir. Consequently, he abandoned the sedan chair and began walking. Surprisingly, he moved with agile steps, forcing the servants to run breathlessly to keep up with him. The second year, a sudden fire broke out in the city, and the flames raged all day without extinguishing. The entire Wu family dared not sleep at night, gathering in the courtyard. The fire grew more intense, dangerously approaching the neighboring houses. The Wu family was in a panic, unsure of what to do. Suddenly, the golden bracelet on Wu Mengxian's wife's arm, accompanied by a clinking sound, detached from her wrist and flew out. The family's gaze followed the trajectory of the bracelet, witnessing it expand to cover the entire Wu residence, resembling a halo, with the opening of the bracelet facing southeast. Everyone was astonished. Shortly thereafter, the fire approached from the west, but when it reached the circled area created by the bracelet, it inexplicably veered to the east. As the fire burned far away, people believed the bracelet would not return. However, suddenly, a red light flashed, and the bracelet, clang, dropped at Wu Mengxian's wife's feet. In this fire, tens of thousands of houses in the city were burned to ashes, and all the neighboring houses surrounding the Wu residence were reduced to rubble. However, miraculously, the Wu family's home remained unscathed, except for a small attic to the southeast of the residence, which vanished into thin air. The small attic was precisely the area not covered by the opening of the bracelet. When Ms. Gu reached her 50s, some people claimed to have seen her looking as young and beautiful as someone in their 20s. Alright. That's all for today's ghostly tale. By Yuyu. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Please also encourage everyone to comment and share more. We'll see you in the next episode.